Welcome back to Sea Glass Archaeology, everyone. I'm so excited to be here on the beach with you. It's the heart of winter and we have a little bit of a break in this extreme weather that we've been having, but there's a freezing rainstorm called for tonight. It's already raining all around me if you can't tell. I'm really bundled up. Let's get out there and hopefully the rain's gonna hold off for us to make some great discoveries. So I'm right at the high tide mark over here. I'm still collecting a bunch of these shells. There's a whole bunch of them over here. And then I caught this piece right over here out of the corner of my eye, and you can see it's got some really unique patterns on it. You know, a piece like this, when I flip it over and I see it's got this little line right over here, it kind of reminds me of what I'd see for like a glass light, like a glass tail light, if you will. And look at this one right over here. Check this out. This is a really, really huge aqua blue piece. Flip it over, we can see that it's the inside wall of like a bottle. Now, you know, one thing I'm gonna say is this is kind of the color that I usually would associate with like a medicine bottle, but you can see that it's really, really thick now that I turn it over like this. And what I'm thinking about this one is this could be like an early century or even like an 1800s type of a soda water bottle. Maybe when we go home, I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to put it up to one of those bottles. Maybe I'll put it up to a round medicine bottle or two if I have a good enough one in my little cabinet, and then we're going to do a comparison. But before I do that, I'm going to show you, it's like all of these beautiful shells. There's one right here, this tiny little one right over here. I'm going to use all of these. It's going to be so great. This one right over here. So I think I'm going to go get, oh, look at this right over here. And now that I'm picking those shells, I saw this piece, and you can see that it has applied color labeling, or ACL. So this is something that's really, really common with the post-automation process, this applied color labeling. So you can make your bottle look really, really fancy without having to put all that extra coloring and glasswork into it. You can see it's kind of just sprayed on. And if this piece right over here was in the ocean long enough, I'm sure most of this would actually fade away as well. Here's a nice little piece of cobalt blue, everybody. It's a really good size. It almost looks like it's a portion of a lip or the bottom of the bottle when I turn it over like this. I'm just so happy that we're able to be at the shoreline right now, everybody. If you can see behind my tablet, I've got my backpack and a hat sheltering it. It's still getting a little bit of wet. And as I look around this pile, this first pile that I'm sitting down to, I can actually see on the surface, there's quite a bit of sea glass. Although I should have probably learned by now that when I'm talking to the camera, it's not good for me to be digging. So I'm gonna get down to the bottom of the pile over here. I'm gonna do some digging. Hopefully we're gonna make some good discoveries. Like that one right over here. I'm finding a lot of glass out here, everybody. Really happy we're here. The tide's supposed to be pushing out for a few more hours as well. So hopefully, if the rain lets out, we're gonna find some good stuff. We're gonna fill this bag with some sea glass. Oh, I see that over there. Nice piece of green. Oh, I just saw something that was blue. Hold on. I see some, yes. Oh, yes. It's not cobalt blue at all, everybody. It's a tiny fragment from a little marble. Okay, hold on. So the hat just fell off at the top of the tablet here, everybody, but it's not raining too much. So I'm gonna be able to share this with you right now. So take a look at this right over here. It's a tiny, tiny little slice of a sea marble. It's almost as flat as a pancake, and there's only half of it as well. You know, now that I'm looking at this piece right over here, it kind of reminds me of an old Japanese kids game called ohajiki. It's a lot like marbles, and it's used with like flat little glass pieces that kind of look like marbles like this, and the kids either have to flick them into the other ohajiki and then they get them, whoever has the most wins. And sometimes I've actually seen it where you tape cups to the bottom of a table and you have to kind of flick the little ohajikis into the cup. So this little piece right over here, although I don't think I'm going to be able to make anything out of it with respect back to like jewelry, maybe I can put into artwork. I'm going to use this one and I'm going to share with you because over the years, I've probably only bought sea glass about 3 or 4 times, and it's only because it was something that was very rare and unique. I had some friends that were actually in Okinawa, I believe it was. They were retired military servers, and they were picking these little ohajikis off of the beaches, and I bought some off of them about 7 years ago. I'm not exactly sure where I put them because it's been a long 7 years, especially with children, but I definitely know that I took some pictures of them because I put it in the little book that I published 7 years ago about sea glass called Piecing Together History. It's just nuts. I can find like 5 pieces in one place, and then I move and I move and I move and I don't find anything. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Guys, it's a piece of red. It's a nice big... Ooh. I just knocked my hat off. Jeez. Look at this. It's a glowing piece of red. You know, without a doubt, I can tell that this one over here is actually from an old lens covering, from an old like light from a vehicle, if you will. You can tell that because it has these little triangular patterns in it. Here, I'm going to try and get them in the camera right over here. Hold on. Come on, let's get this focus going here, everyone. So there's 2 different things about this piece that helped me decipher that this was from an old tail lens, other than the fact that I've seen it a lot of times before. So the first thing I'm looking at is it's got these little triangular patterns over here, and what that did was that really helped refract the light as it was emitted out of the original light source. And then the second thing is this little groove on the other side right over here, and that's kind of how it fits snugly into the side of the automobile, and then it was probably surrounded by some sort of a rubber casing around it that kept it waterproof. You know, I'm really not surprised that I find pieces like this on the beach. Over the years, as I'm walking here, I've noticed every time that it's really muddy out, a lot of fresh glass kind of just pushes out of the slurry, and I have found numerous different designs of tail lights, this being one of the more popular ones, up there in the mud slurry, and I've just observed them over time. They all seem to have this little bit of a casing line right over here, and that's where I kind of figured that that clear piece that I found earlier might have been from a tail light as well, because it also had that reverse casing line to it that I know comes from old tail lights. Nice piece of blue. Another nice piece of blue. I got something here, guys. Check this one out. Here. I'm a little far from everybody there. I'm gonna have to readjust the camera, but I just found a really, really nice tiny little piece right over here. You can see that it's another piece of blue, and it's aqua blue as well. This one's a lot smaller. And now that I'm looking at it, it's really hard to see, but now that I'm looking in the camera, you can see it. It's got this little bit of an edge right over here. So this is probably the bottom of a little bottle as well, but this one probably actually is from like a medicine bottle, maybe like a little old pill bottle from the late early 1900s. I'm pretty sure that I have an example that will match very close to this. So before I move the camera, I wanted to share this little piece right over here that I didn't find, but it was donated to my historical sea glass display just yesterday by one of my youngest and favorite followers, Josephine, who's only 8 years old. Thank you so much for donating this to me. So I'm going to talk about this with everybody, and hopefully we can learn about it. You know, at first glance, you might think that this is just like a little piece of ceramic that really has no relevancy, but Josephine had a really, really good eye, and that's why she wanted to share it with me, because she thought that this was the feet from the bottom of a frozen Charlotte statue. And then when I turned it around, you can actually see right over here, there's a spot where the posterior meets the legs, to put it nicely. So I absolutely concurred that this was a frozen Charlotte doll. Now, I'm not sure if you've ever heard the term frozen Charlotte before or seen them on sea glass collecting groups. What they were little porcelain dolls that originated in Germany around 1850. They were originally meant to be bath time toys. They made frozen Charlies as well. When they moved to the United States, actually what happened was it kind of got associated with a tale about a woman named Charlotte who was on her way to a ball on New Year's Eve, and she refused to dress up warm and she froze to death. And then her lover Charlie actually died thereafter very shortly. So there is a little legend going around that frozen Charlotte dolls were actually used in North America as to serve as a warning to do what your parents told you to do, to dress up warm, make sure you don't freeze to death like Charlotte did. And to be honest, looking at these little Charlotte dolls when they have their heads, they are a little bit creepy and macabre, if you will. So you can kind of see where the American kind of tradition of calling them frozen Charlotte comes into play. So thanks again, Josephine, for sharing this, and I hope that somebody out there actually has a little unique piece of ceramic like this. They've always wondered what it was, and I just helped you match what it is. It's actually from a frozen Charlotte doll. Now check this out, everybody. I'm just at the high tide mark because I always look for shells and I look for red plastic as well, and I found another piece from a taillight lens covering, and this one is absolutely plastic. You know, with the end of World War II, a lot of things changed with innovation and technology, and one thing was actually that we stopped making most lens coverings out of glass and we started making them out of plastic as it proved its durability during the war. You know, this one over here is going to be really hard for me to use. It's got all these tiny little pebbles that are just embedded into it. So I don't know how I'm going to clean it out, but undoubtedly I'm going to take it home because it doesn't belong on the beach. And now I'm going to share a really neat ceramic trio of finds with you, everybody, that I just found still at the high tide mark. So you can see here, this is a really large piece of that beautiful pink ceramic tile. And then over here, I found this. It's a peculiar little item, and there's a good chance that you might find something like this out your way, and you always wonder what it's from. This is a fragment of an old pipe stem, also known as trade pipes. So trade pipes were kind of mass produced into the 1800s. They were made kind of when you take two slug plates, you'd push them together, and then you'd hollow them out like this over here. Sometimes you can find some really, really inconsistent holes. You know, typically I like to tell people that if you find a pipe stem and the hole is more pronounced, it's a lot larger and looser, there's a good chance it was made before the 1820s. It's over 200 years old. I know with over 25,000 shipwrecks going down off of Nova Scotia in the last 500 years, not to mention all the marine traffic, it's a really good chance that no matter where you are in Cape Breton Island, you are going to recover these trade pipes. Even into the 20th century, people still were smoking and using them. They were breaking off little pieces when they got clogged and discarding it over the boat into the ocean. So this is a neat little find. And then thirdly, the other little thing I wanted to share with you is this peculiar piece right over here. This is an interesting little piece right over here. You can see it's got a line like a mold marking on it. It's a ceramic. And once again, this is a stilt that somebody would have used in a kiln when they were firing their ceramics. And they would use a whole bunch of these, and then they could stack the dishes one on top of another. And then that hot air circulation could go through the kiln and it can fire it. So when you find a piece like this out your way, it's a really great indication that ceramics were made locally. And then as I'm talking, and I'm talking about all this, I looked over and then look at this right over here. It's a don't worry, be happy. I'm going to imagine this is an eraser. Absolutely, this is an eraser. See, an eraser like this is definitely flotsam, and that's where we're going to find it at the high tide mark with a bunch of these ceramic finds as well. So I'm going to take this home with me. I know it's litter. It's still pretty neat to find something that's just smiling at me on a nice rainy day like today. So this is way too unbelievable because this is a completely different credit card. I guess it belonged to Shannon, and it's sitting right over here, almost in the exact same place that I found that last one a couple of weeks ago. So I really wanted to share this amazing piece, everybody. Take a look. You can see that it's got these ribbed embossed lines on it. And I've talked about this before, so you probably have all heard me say that this is indicative of an old poison bottle. You know, this is a really small piece. I'd have to say it's only about 3/8. When I flip it over, you can actually see it's probably the bottom of the bottle. It actually has two different lines from where it would have met to the side of it. And now that I look at it, it actually might have been like a triangular shaped bottle, because you can see that the corner right over here, it just doesn't meet on a 90-degree angle. I'm gonna break the tablet doing this one day, everybody. Sorry about that. So it's a piece of safety glass, everybody. So you can see it's got these little wires in it right over here that cross. We like to refer to this as safety glass, but I'm sure if we were around in the 1890s when it was originally patented, we'd probably call it chicken wire glass, because originally it was chicken wire that was put inside of this glass over here. You know, this was commonly used in like public buildings and elevators as well, and it did strengthen the glass per se so that people couldn't get through it. And what it also did was offer some sort of a thermal barrier, as what happened is if there was a fire, it would be heat resistant and the wire actually kept the glass in place. Now, believe it or not, putting wire in the glass actually weakens the glass. And unfortunately, what can happen is when the glass breaks, it really splinters and creates some dangerous jagged edges. I've actually found quite a bit of dangerous jagged edges of security glass and safety glass out my way. And you know what? I bring them home. I always have to wrap them extra special and extra careful so that I don't get hurt. So I can firsthand attest to how dangerous the glass becomes when it fractures and the wire is actually holding these jagged shards together. Now, believe it or not, it is still used and deemed acceptable to this day in Canada in 2020. So it's 130 years later and people are still putting wire inside of the glass. And you know, when I think about it, pieces like this of old safety glass, they're a lot like washboard pieces with respect to if one of them was thrown away, it's going to create a large volume of glass. Now imagine a public building was redoing 10, 20, even 50 doors on a school, and each of them had safety glass like this. Let's just call it like a 10-pound pane of glass was in that door. Then they threw it into the ocean. That's why some people out there actually recover hundreds and thousands pieces of this safety glass, and other people don't find it at all. It really depends on if a door such as that with the window on it was discarded out your way. Oh, it's purple! Guys, I knew it! I was just looking. I was just gonna go sit down right over there. This is just crazy. I was just gonna go and sit down and start digging, and then right on the surface here, I gotta get into the frame here, everybody. I'm so excited. Right as I was about to go and sit down in that little spot over there, this little piece caught my eye. Now you can see it almost looks like it's a piece of black glass, but what it is it's a light bulb insulator, and it's a deep, deep, dark purple. And it's wild because, you know, I've seen some people in the beachcombing community, depending on where you live, and they can find hundreds, if not thousands of these if those light bulbs were discarded into a seaside dump or a rubbish tip. Out my way, they're really not as common, but I do find them from time to time, and I've actually seen a few of them that are a really beautiful cobalt blue as well. So if you find these out your way, these little pieces of purple or cobalt blue glass, then you know that these are from old light bulbs. Take a look at this really unique bottle lip that I just found, everybody. You can see that it's got two levels to it. This is what's referred to as a double taper. When I turn it around, it reveals on the inside of the bottleneck that there's a little bit of a glass line over here, and this tells me that this lip was actually applied. What happened was the bottle was blown into a mold, and then a molten blob of glass was added to the top. They would use a tool to pinch down, and it created this lip, this double taper lip right over here. That tells me that this bottle was probably made around 1880, 1890, probably not too much earlier. Okay, everybody, I've already seen it, so it's hard to get super excited, but I'm coming up to this pile, and check this out. There's a beautiful marble. It's sitting right over here. There's a whole bunch of other sea glass as well, but we're gonna get to that in a minute. So let's take a look at this. It's a nice like aqua blue marble. It's got some blue and some white veins into it. You know, I'd have to say it's about ½ an inch, maybe a little bit smaller than that. And I'm gonna keep this going now because I can see that there's so much on the top over here. And I really wish I would have been rolling because I would have been absolutely flabbergasted, excited about that find. But you can see, like I said, there's more sea glass. Now that I'm looking, you can see there's a piece of cobalt blue right over here. And then I'm gonna look, and there's another piece of blue right over here. And we're gonna take them both. I just saw a tiny blue here. Oh, come on, don't lose that blue. Don't lose that blue. There it is, I got it. Right here, it's tiny, but I got it. Oh my gosh, look at this. This is another purple but I don't think that this one here is from a light. Oh my gosh, everybody, I'm gonna show you the find of the day so far. Check this out. You can see that this is a piece of purple, and you can see it's got these air bubbles in it as well. I'm gonna have to imagine that this is an antique marble. Here, let me take a look at it right over here. You know, yeah, I'm gonna have to say that this is a marble over here. At first I was like, you know what, I'm really not that sure. I haven't come across too many purple marbles in my life. Maybe this was just a piece of glass that's been really, really well aged, and maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe it is a piece of glass that's really, really well aged. But to me, this is an absolute gem. When I hold it up like this, I can actually see that there's an inconsistency where it's almost darker purple at the top and less purple at the bottom. Well, here it is, everybody. It's the find of the day for me so far. This beautiful little purple sea marble. You know, I think I've only found 3 sea marbles that are purple in my life. They were a lot darker than this, the first 2. This one's so neat where it's got these little air bubbles in it. I'm gonna keep looking over here. The rain is coming down, but it's not gonna deter me. So a bunch of the shoreline just came down right over here. I'm just gonna film for a moment or two. Hopefully some more is gonna come down and I'm gonna catch it on camera. Because I really want to remind everybody that winter is one of the most dangerous times to be coming down to the beaches over here. Because what happens is the water, as it's making its way down to the sea level, it freezes in the shorelines, and then when it expands, it creates cracks in the sedimentary rocks, and then it creates some really fast erosions. I think I just saw a little bit right over there. So you really, really have to be careful on top of the slippery rock to make sure that you're not picking near any of these cliffs, no matter where you are. Now check this one out, everybody. A frozen Charlotte it is not, but it is absolutely the leg from a modern doll. It's kind of wild just to find this and to think that, you know, 100, 150 years ago, that frozen Charlotte was the doll that somebody would have been playing with, and it really wasn't that appealing in my opinion. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Are you kidding me? Look at the size of this nugget, everybody. Oh my gosh. Okay, let me bring this in over here. This is off the charts as well. Oh my, okay, look at the seaweed off of my fingers too. So look at this piece right over here. It's perfectly aged. I'm gonna have to say that it looks like a little mini egg, like a robin's egg. But robin's eggs were typically blue, so I don't think we can call it that. You know, it's really large and it's a little bit dull. There's a chance that this is a piece of lead crystal. And now that I'm holding it, take a look right in the middle, right over here. There's like a big black dot in this. You know, I've never seen anything like this before, something that has like a big black dot in it. Is there a chance that this is like a piece of bonfire glass and this is like an inclusion, like a piece of ash? It's really hard to tell from here on the beach, but look at this. I think I'm gonna turn the camera around and I'm gonna show you what this looks like. It is raining right now, but what I really want you to see is right in the center of this big chunk that I just found, there's a big black dot in it. It's pretty wild. Like I said, I've never seen anything like this before. And I found that big chunk that was like a hockey puck a few weeks ago on the same spot. So when I'm finding big pieces like this, I always say that this is a really good indication that the beach has cycled and the beach has rested. What that means is that after a summer of intense picking and tourists, the beach has had a lot of time to cycle and turn itself over, and then you find new and larger sea glass. The rain is really starting to come down right now, and I'm still finding some great sea glass. I'm gonna have to put the tablet in my backpack for a bit so it doesn't get soaked. If I lost it, I'd have no connection to the outside world around me. So if I make any great discoveries, I promise I'm gonna share them with you. So it's 2 seconds later, I just put the tablet away. I'm walking on the low tide mark, and this is definitely something I have to share with you. Let me pick it up. Oh my gosh. So take a look over here. You know, it's a beautiful blue marble, but to me, it doesn't look like it's that old. This is the kind of marble that I see people finding in areas where I know that there's seated beaches. This is something that you can probably buy at a dollar store or like a craft store. Oh, the rain's really coming down all around me. I found this and I got so excited. You can see by my face, it's a beautiful marble, but this is definitely not something that I'm gonna be selling because I know that this is really, really modern. And on top of that, when I first started picking sea glass, I was still finding some some of these, and I know why I did find them. There's a cemetery not far from where I am, and people would put these on top of the graves of their relatives. And then crows are pretty mischievous little animals. They've picked these up and they've buried them, because I noticed that crows have food banks all around here and places where they store shiny little things. Oh, look at this right over here. It's flawlessly aged. It's a perfect bean. It's well over an inch long. Take a look at the ceramic shard over here, everybody. Now you might encounter this over your way and these little crazing lines on it. And what this is this is a defect in the glazing. Now check out this microscopic little find that I found over here. You know, over my career, I've probably found 15 to 20 of these. When I hold it on the cross section, you can actually see that those little black dots are little wires that are going through the glass. So to me, this is another insulator as well. However, I have never actually been able to match this to where it comes from. I've always just hypothesized that maybe this was inside of like a radio or a TV, and maybe if there's somebody out there that knows what this is definitively, you can help me. Take a look, everybody. It's another piece of safety glass. This one's a lot larger. You can really see the wires that are sticking out of the sides. And this actually speaks to what I was saying earlier. If you're going to find safety glass out your way, there's a good chance you're going to be finding a lot of it if you consider how big these windows were, and when a building was doing a renovation, how many would have been thrown away. Take a look at this, everybody. I'm not sure. Maybe this is an old coin. It's kind of rounded like a coin. I'm not 100% sure. This could actually be a rivet now that I'm looking on the other side. Or it could be like a really, really well-worn Canadian nickel. It's a beautiful blue cat's eye sea marble, everybody. Check it out right over here. This is exactly how I found it. I grabbed the tablet. It's still raining. You can just see it's got a beautiful blue X marks the spot on it. The tide has really gone down. Look at that. It's another beautiful blue. This one's pretty big. It's absolutely aged to perfection. Well, it's just a beautiful day right now, everybody. It's a lip from a bottle, but you can see that it's kind of like a screw cap lip. So this might be from something like a 7-Up, if you will. I'm going to keep on going because I can see so many more tiny blues. Look at that. Tiny blue. And if you thought that one was tiny, then these two over here are absolutely microscopic. Look at that. And look at that over here. Now take a look at this amazing find right over here, everybody. It looks like it's a claw, and I'm gonna have to hypothesize it's from a sea lion, because last year a sea lion actually found its way onto the beach. It was deceased. I could see it had a huge bite mark out of it from a shark, and I took some pictures, but I never shared it with everybody. But you can see when I put my fingers down that this massive claw is actually bigger than my fingers, and I'm a 6'2" man, so my fingers aren't too small by any stretch. I really can't believe this, and it's sitting right here at the high tide mark. It's wild because there's another piece of bone right over there as well. I don't think that's from the sea lion, but right over here, finding this amazing claw, I think this absolutely is from a sea lion. It's getting really dark out, everybody. I'm still on the beach, but it's hard to see what I'm doing. You can see that I took a big swipe with my boot right over here. I don't know if I kicked it out, but check this out. It's another marble. This one here is kind of green and white, and it's got some red in it too. It's a really nice size. It's got that aqua seafoam tinge to it. So here we have that beautiful piece of cobalt blue with the unique ribbed pattern on it once again. So we know without a doubt that it comes from a poison bottle because of that little bit of a ribbing on it. However, because when we flipped it over, we could see that it has a little bit of an angle. It's not a true 90-degree angle, so it couldn't have been a squared bottle. And for that reason, I wanted to share this beautiful one with you right over here. You can see that it has a hexagonal shape to it, and that would create angles that weren't 90 degrees. There was such a wide variety of poison bottles that were manufactured throughout the 1800s. They were so beautiful and ornate. A piece like this could actually be from something that is far more beautiful than this one over here. However, this is the fanciest example that I have, and I really wanted to share it with you because unless you've been in my shop, I don't think you've seen it before. So without a doubt, this was the largest colorful piece that I found of the day, and I wanted to share with you how it's the perfect match to the bottom of this early century soda water bottle over here. Now, just for fun, I have my 1880s White and McKay bottle. Here we go. that I dug out of the shoreline, and when I put the same piece right up to this, we can really see that it doesn't match. You can see that on the right-hand side that the curve just comes down way too quickly. So that really tells us that a piece like this has to be from a smaller bottle as opposed to like a 26 ouncer. Well, it turns out my selection of tiny little blue medicine bottles is extremely limited. Fortunately for us, this bottle right over here is a very close match, and it actually possesses some of the qualities that I wanted to talk about. You can see the little inside line right over here from the inside of the bottle. It doesn't run straight, it actually runs on a little bit of a curve, and that's the type of thing that we would expect to see from a bottle such as this one over here that's oval shaped. You know, when I put this bottle on an angle like this, you can actually see that there's a heavy amount of glass right at the base, and this really is something that I would expect to see around the early turn of the century. It's a beautiful bottle. Number 180 in the catalog would be my assumption, and it even is sealed with a cork, even though we can see that it has a screw cap, which means if somebody reused this bottle, this cork itself is probably 100 years old. Well, everyone, that's going to be about it for this episode of Sea Glass Archaeology, but I am so glad that we got to the shoreline. You know, I took the dogs for a walk and it was raining so heavy, I didn't think there was any chance at all that we were going to be able to squeeze this pick in, but lo and behold that we did. I want to say thanks to everybody again for all of the love and positive support and encouragement that you offer to me. The world is a better place when you can treat a stranger like a longtime friend, and I want to thank each and every one of you for treating me like a friend and welcome me into your house. So that's it for now, everybody. I'll see you again real soon. So take a look at this, everybody. The ice storm is finally over. I'm taking my first walk for a few days, and look at this huge piece of ice. And this is actually what was encased on a glass insulator that is right above my head. It's kind of wild. You can see there's a second fragment right there, a third fragment right there, and it's raining, but let's get this into focus. You can see right up there, those are the glass insulators, and maybe I shouldn't stay here because I think a few more chunks are going to fall on me. But that is absolutely beautiful.